The Struggle for Church Reform, Cluny's Legacy and the Clash of Church and State. Greetings to all our esteemed viewers. Today, we delve into the profound historical movement of church reform that originated from the renowned monastic center of Cluny. This reform is pivotal in understanding the complexities of church-state relations during the medieval era. The reform was fundamentally aimed at purifying the secular clergy and mitigating the pervasive issues of laicization and feudalization engulfing the church. This movement marks a critical juncture in ecclesiastical history, where moral imperatives intersect with political necessity, offering rich insights into the shifting paradigms that defined European society during the Middle Ages. During the 10th and 11th centuries, the Church faced a severe crisis of feudalization, as ecclesiastical posts were frequently treated as feudal fiefs rather than sacred offices. This feudal system resulted in bishops and abbots prioritizing temporal over spiritual duties, often viewing their roles as hereditary possessions. The implications were dire, threatening the very essence of ecclesiastical independence and spiritual integrity. The secular control over ecclesiastical positions catalyzed the reform movement, as Cluny emerged as a beacon of hope advocating for the emancipation of the Church from these secular chains, risking the total subjugation to temporal powers. Born from the heart of monastic reform at Cluny, this movement initially focused on the moral revitalization of the clergy but soon evolved into a constitutional upheaval. The reform was twofold. It aimed not only to cleanse the Church of moral decay but also to extricate it from entanglements with the state apparatus that diluted its spiritual focus. Central to the reformers' efforts was addressing the dual nature of ecclesiastical posts, which were seen increasingly as extensions of feudal domains. This necessitated a revolutionary approach, challenging traditional norms and advocating for a church autonomous from secular interventions. A significant battleground for the reformers was the control over episcopal appointments. Historically, lay leaders such as kings and prominent feudal lords had arrogated the right to appoint bishops, thereby undermining the sanctity and autonomy of ecclesiastical offices. This process included key figures like Emperor Henry IV, whose conflicts with Pope Gregory VII culminated in the infamous walk to Canossa in 1077. Reformers opposed the practice of lay investiture, wherein lay authorities conferred the sacred symbols of ring and crozier upon bishops, thus implying temporal authority over spiritual roles. Equally contentious was the requirement for bishops to swear oaths of fealty to secular overlords, reducing their spiritual mandate to a mere feudal obligation. Such measures were perceived not only as encroachments upon church rights but also as acts that fundamentally compromised ecclesiastical independence and integrity, thereby fueling the reformers' resolve to restore canonical norms. The protracted struggle to reclaim traditional electoral rights emerged as a central theme of this reform movement. Despite agreements such as the Concordat of Worms in 1122, which attempted to delineate the boundaries of ecclesiastical and royal influence, the right of election often remained elusive. In many regions, secular authorities continued to exert substantial influence over episcopal appointments. Even when nominal rights were restored to cathedral chapters, the substantive freedom to elect remained circumscribed by royal prerogatives and confirmations. The complex interplay of power dynamics underscored the reformers' challenge in redefining ecclesiastical autonomy in a feudal context. At the heart of the reform efforts lay the Investiture Controversy, a conflict emblematic of broader church-state tensions. The symbolic act of investiture had profound implications, as it conferred both temporal and spiritual authority. The resolution, characterized by significant concessions on both sides, eventually saw the Church reclaiming spiritual investitures while acknowledging the temporal rights of monarchs over lands and holdings. This compromise, however, was less a definitive end than a strategic realignment, highlighting the enduring complexity of managing dual temporal and spiritual allegiances within the framework of medieval societal structures. In parallel with reform efforts, the Church asserted significant claims over financial autonomy and jurisdictional authority. Central to these claims was the demand for exemption from secular taxation, as articulated in the decrees of the Lateran councils. The tithe system, critical to church finance, faced significant challenges as many lands were held by lay authorities. Meanwhile, ecclesiastical courts sought exclusive rights over clergy matters, positioning themselves as an autonomous legal entity within the broader societal framework. These claims underscored the broader struggle for church sovereignty, pitting ecclesiastical prerogatives against secular encroachments. The Cluniac reform movement set a precedent that deeply influenced subsequent ecclesiastical and secular governance. Despite facing substantial opposition, the reformers' efforts fundamentally reshaped the Church, establishing principles of autonomy and spiritual integrity that resonated throughout the Middle Ages and beyond, leaving an indelible mark on church history. In conclusion, the church reform movement originating from Cluny was a transformative period that redefined ecclesiastical structure and authority. It underscored the complexities of balancing spiritual imperatives with political realities, laying the groundwork for future reforms and exemplifying a profound commitment to ecclesiastical purity and independence.